Charles Lamb's Dream Children is a sad and beautiful story about a man who dreams of telling stories to his imaginary children. The story is not real, it is a daydream or a reverie. The narrator, whom many readers think is Charles Lamb, is a bachelor. He has no real children. In his dream, he has two little ones, a boy named John and a girl named Alice. They sit around him one evening and ask him to tell them about their great grandmother Field and other family memories. First, he tells them about their great grandmother Field. She was a very good and religious woman. She lived in a great big house in Norfolk, which was much bigger than the house where the children live with their father. People believed that the sad story of the children in the wood happened in that house. The story was once carved into the wooden chimney piece, but a foolish rich person removed it and put up a plain marble one. Here, little Alice gives her father a gentle, loving look. The narrator explains that great grandmother Field was not the owner of the house, she only took care of it for the real owner, who lived in a newer house. But she kept the old house very nicely. Later, the house fell into decay and its old decorations were taken away and put into a fancy modern house where they looked very out of place. John smiles at this silly idea. The grandmother was so loved by everyone that many poor people and even some rich people came to her funeral from miles around. She knew all the Psalms by heart and much of the Bible too. Little Alice spreads her hands in wonder. Then the narrator describes great grandmother Field as a tall, graceful, and good dancer. Alice's foot starts to move as if to dance, but she stops when her father looks serious. Sadly, she later got a disease called cancer that bent her body with pain, but it never bent her good spirits. She used to sleep alone in a big lonely room. She believed she saw the ghosts of two children on the stairs at midnight, but she was not afraid because they would not harm her. The narrator himself was afraid of ghosts when he was a child, even though his maid slept with him. Because he was not as good as his grandmother, John tries to look brave. Next, the narrator tells how kind she was to all her grandchildren. He loved to wander alone in the huge house and gardens. He would look at marble busts of Roman emperors and feel as if they came alive. He loved the old gardens, the yew trees, the fish pond, and the quiet pikefish. He liked these simple pleasures more than eating peaches and grapes. Here, John secretly puts back a bunch of grapes on the plate, and both children lose interest in eating for now. Then the narrator speaks of their uncle John L., who was handsome, brave, and full of spirit. As a boy, he would ride wild horses and go hunting. He was their great grandmother's favorite. He often carried the narrator on his back when the narrator was a lame boy. Later, the uncle also became lame. The narrator sadly admits that he did not always understand his uncle's pain. When the uncle died, the narrator felt fine at first, but then he missed him terribly, his kindness and even his crossness. At this point, the dream children begin to cry. They ask their father to stop talking about their uncle and instead tell stories about their pretty dead mother. So the narrator begins to tell them how he courted, tried to win the love of a woman named Alice W. for 7 long years with hope and despair. Suddenly, as he looks at little Alice, he sees the soul of her dead mother looking out of her eyes. He becomes confused. Then both children slowly fade away. They seem to say without speaking, "We are not real children." Alice's real children have another father. "We are nothing but dreams." Then the narrator wakes up. He is sitting alone in his bachelor's armchair. His real life cousin Bridget, who is not changed, sits beside him, But the children, John and Alice, are gone forever.